Imagine living on less than $2 a day, no clean water, no proper health care, and food so scarce that every meal is a struggle. For millions, this isn't just a nightmare, it's their daily reality. Today, we're diving into the world's poorest countries, nations battling extreme poverty, hunger, and crisis every single day. How did they get here? What's stopping them from escaping poverty? And is there any hope for a better future? From the world's poorest country, Burundi, to Liberia at number 10, we'll uncover the shocking realities of life in these struggling nations. Join us as we explore the 10 countries so poor that $2 a day is a luxury. Stay with us until the end. The truth behind their struggle will leave you speechless. Number 10. Democratic Republic of the Congo. We journey to the heart of Africa, to the Democratic Republic of Congo, a nation blessed with natural resources, yet tragically burdened by extreme poverty. This is a story of resilience, struggle, and the urgent need for change. The DRC is vast, rich in minerals like cobalt and coltan, essential for our modern technology. Ironically, this very wealth has fueled conflict and instability for decades. Imagine a country with the potential to be a powerhouse, instead crippled by corruption, violence, and exploitation. This is the reality for millions of Congolese. The numbers are staggering. The DRC consistently ranks among the poorest nations on Earth. Millions live on less than $1 a day, struggling to access basic necessities like food, clean water, and health care. Malnutrition is rampant, particularly among children, leading to stunted growth and long-term health problems. But the story of the DRC is not just about statistics. It's about the human cost. It's about families torn apart by conflict, children denied access to education, and communities struggling to rebuild their lives in the face of unimaginable hardship. Imagine a mother forced to choose between feeding her children and seeking medical care. This is the agonizing reality for so many. The challenges are immense, but the Congolese people are not without hope. They possess an incredible spirit of resilience, a determination to survive against all odds. The DRC's story is a call to action. It's a reminder that we are all interconnected and that we have a responsibility to support those who are struggling. Number 9. Madagascar. Madagascar, a country known for its unique wildlife and stunning landscapes. Despite its rich natural resources, this island nation remains one of the poorest countries in the world. Located off the coast of East Africa, Madagascar is home to over 28 million people, but more than 75% of the population lives in extreme poverty, surviving on less than $2 a day. The economy depends heavily on agriculture, fishing, and tourism, but political instability, corruption, and climate change have made development difficult. Despite having valuable resources like vanilla, gemstones, and precious woods, most of the profits do not reach the people. Farmers and laborers earn very little, while businesses struggle due to poor infrastructure and weak government policies. Madagascar is also facing one of the worst food crises in Africa. Repeated droughts, deforestation, and poor soil quality make farming difficult. The country depends heavily on rice and cassava, but failed harvests leave millions hungry. Malnutrition is a severe and growing crisis, especially among children. Nearly half of all children under 5 suffer from stunted growth due to lack of food. While international aid helps, Madagascar needs long-term solutions to end chronic hunger. The healthcare system is severely underdeveloped. There aren't enough hospitals, doctors, or medical supplies, making it difficult to treat common diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, and pneumonia. With one of the highest maternal and child mortality rates, many women give birth without medical assistance, increasing the risk of complications. Lack of clean water and sanitation also leads to outbreaks of deadly diseases like cholera. Number 8. Burundi. Burundi, a small, landlocked country in East Africa, is one of the poorest nations in the world. With a struggling economy, extreme poverty, and a history of conflict, millions of Burundians fight every day just to survive. But why is Burundi in such a dire state? And is there hope for its future? Burundi ranks among the lowest in GDP per capita, with over 70% of its population living in poverty. According to the World Bank, the average Burundian survives on less than $2 a day. Food insecurity is rampant. Over 50% of children suffer from chronic malnutrition. Agriculture is the backbone of Burundi's economy, employing over 80% of the population, but outdated farming methods, unpredictable weather, and a lack of resources make it nearly impossible for farmers to produce enough food, both for survival and income. Access to basic necessities like clean water, healthcare, and education is extremely limited. Many families walk miles just to find water, and underfunded healthcare facilities struggle to meet demand. Education is also a major challenge. Only a small fraction of children make it to high school, trapping generations in poverty. Decades of political instability and civil war have left deep scars. Corruption, ethnic tensions, and violence have displaced thousands, creating a humanitarian crisis. Even today, political struggles hold back economic growth and development efforts. But despite these challenges, there is still hope. International organizations are working to provide aid, improve education, and develop sustainable farming methods. Local entrepreneurs are stepping up, creating small businesses to boost the economy.
Number 7. South Sudan. South Sudan, the world's youngest nation, is also one of the poorest and most fragile countries on the planet. Since gaining independence in 2011, it has faced war, famine, and economic collapse. But why is South Sudan struggling so much? And is there any hope for its people? South Sudan has one of the lowest GDP per capita in the world, with over 80% of its people living in poverty. The country is heavily dependent on oil, but corruption and conflict have kept the wealth from reaching ordinary citizens. To make matters worse, inflation has skyrocketed, making food and basic goods unaffordable for millions. Decades of conflict have devastated South Sudan. After a brutal civil war with Sudan, independence was supposed to bring peace. Instead, a new civil war broke out in 2013, forcing over 4 million people to flee their homes. To this day, violence and instability continue, preventing any real progress. South Sudan also faces one of the worst food crises in the world. Droughts, floods, and locust invasions have destroyed crops, leaving over 60% of the population food insecure. Many children suffer from severe malnutrition, and hunger-related deaths are alarmingly high. Basic services like education, healthcare, and clean water are almost non-existent in many areas. Only 8% of South Sudanese have access to electricity, and many schools have been destroyed by war. The healthcare system is severely underfunded, leading to outbreaks of deadly diseases. Local activists and community leaders are working to rebuild schools and support struggling families, and peace talks continue in an effort to end the cycle of violence.
Number 6. Central African Republic. The Central African Republic, one of the richest countries in natural resources, but also one of the poorest nations on Earth. Despite its gold, diamonds, and timber, the people of CAR struggle with extreme poverty, war, and hunger. The Central African Republic has a population of over 5 million, but nearly 80% of its people live in extreme poverty. It ranks near the bottom in healthcare, education, and economic growth. With constant conflict, corruption, and lack of development, the nation struggles to provide even the most basic necessities to its people. For decades, violence and civil war have torn CAR apart. Armed groups control large parts of the country, causing chaos, destruction, and suffering. People are forced to flee their homes, with over 1 million refugees seeking safety in other countries. The never-ending conflict makes economic progress nearly impossible. Hunger is a daily struggle. Over half of the population is food insecure, with many children suffering from severe malnutrition. The agricultural sector is weak due to conflict, poor infrastructure, and climate change, making food scarce and expensive for millions. Education and healthcare in CAR are on the brink of collapse. Schools lack teachers and materials, and many children never complete primary school.
The healthcare system is critically underfunded with few doctors, medical supplies, and hospitals to treat the sick. Preventable diseases like malaria and cholera continue to kill thousands. The people of CAR are resilient, and with the right leadership and global support, the country could one day rebuild itself. Number 5. Mozambique. A nation blessed with natural resources and a vibrant culture, but burdened by extreme poverty and escalating crises. This is a story of resilience, hardship, and the urgent need for global attention. Located in southeastern Africa, Mozambique boasts a long coastline, fertile lands, and significant reserves of natural gas. Yet, this potential remains largely untapped as the nation grapples with a complex web of challenges that perpetuate poverty. The numbers paint a stark picture. A large portion of the population lives below the poverty line, struggling to access basic necessities like food, clean water, and health care. Malnutrition is widespread, particularly among children, hindering their development and jeopardizing their future. Climate change is making things even worse. Devastating cyclones and droughts continue to ravage communities and destroy livelihoods, leaving countless families on the brink of survival. But behind these statistics are real people, families fighting to stay alive. Imagine a farmer losing their crops to drought, unable to feed their children. Picture a mother walking miles to fetch contaminated water, risking her family's health. These are the daily realities for millions of Mozambicans. The crisis doesn't end there. Ongoing conflict and displacement in certain regions have created a humanitarian disaster, forcing thousands to flee their homes. This instability disrupts essential services, strains already limited resources, and fuels further hardship. Number 4. Malawi. Besides its breathtaking landscapes and friendly people, Malawi is struggling with extreme poverty, food shortages, and weak infrastructure. Malawi is a small, landlocked country in southeastern Africa. Over 70% of its population lives below the poverty line, surviving on less than $2 a day. The country's economy is heavily dependent on agriculture, particularly tobacco. But unpredictable weather, droughts, and low global prices make survival even harder for farmers. With limited industries and job opportunities, most Malawians struggle to earn a stable income. Malawi frequently faces food shortages and famine due to poor soil quality, droughts, and over-reliance on maize. When harvests fail, millions are left starving. Malnutrition is a huge problem, with many children suffering from stunted growth. Even though international organizations provide food aid, Malawi needs sustainable solutions to end hunger for good. One of Malawi's biggest challenges is rapid population growth. The country has one of the highest birth rates in the world, putting massive pressure on already limited resources. More people mean less access to food, clean water, education, and healthcare. The government struggles to keep up, leaving many citizens without basic necessities. Malawi's healthcare system is severely underdeveloped. There aren't enough hospitals, doctors, or medical supplies, making it difficult to treat common diseases like malaria, HIV/AIDS, and cholera. High child mortality rates and poor maternal health care make the situation even worse. Many Malawians die from preventable diseases simply because they can't access proper medical care. Many children don't attend school because they have to work or take care of their families. Number 3. Chad. Chad is a landlocked country in Central Africa, home to over 17 million people. More than 42% of the population lives in extreme poverty, surviving on less than $2 a day. The country's economy relies on agriculture and oil exports, but corruption and mismanagement prevent wealth from reaching the people. Most Chadians work in subsistence farming and livestock herding, but droughts, desertification, and climate change make it harder to produce enough food. Meanwhile, the oil industry is controlled by a few elites, leaving millions in desperate economic conditions. Chad faces one of the worst food shortages in Africa. The country's harsh climate and poor soil make farming extremely difficult. Frequent droughts and locust invasions destroy crops, leaving millions of people hungry. Malnutrition is a major crisis, especially among children. Nearly 40% of children under 5 suffer from stunted growth due to lack of food. International aid provides emergency relief, but Chad needs long-term solutions to escape this endless cycle of hunger. The country also has one of the highest maternal and child mortality rates in the world. Many women give birth without medical assistance, increasing the risk of complications and death. Without access to proper health care, millions of Chadians suffer from preventable diseases every year. Chad has faced decades of political instability, armed conflicts, and terrorist threats. Rebel groups and extremists often clash with government forces, creating a dangerous environment for civilians. Number 2. Niger. Despite its vast land and rich cultural heritage, Niger remains one of the least developed nations, struggling with extreme poverty, food shortages, and harsh living conditions. Niger is a landlocked country in West Africa, covered mostly by the Sahara Desert. With scorching temperatures, droughts, and very little rainfall, farming is incredibly difficult. Since over 80% of the population relies on agriculture, these extreme weather conditions make food scarcity a huge problem. When crops fail, people are left with nothing to eat, leading to severe hunger and malnutrition. Niger has one of the lowest GDPs per capita in the world. Over 40% of its population lives in extreme poverty, surviving on less than $2 a day. The country's economy is weak, heavily dependent on subsistence farming and small-scale trade. While Niger does have valuable natural resources like uranium, its people see little benefit due to foreign exploitation and poor governance. One of Niger's biggest challenges is its high birth rate, the highest in the world. On average, a Nigerian woman gives birth to around 6 to 7 children. While children are seen as a blessing in many cultures, the rapid population growth has overwhelmed the country's resources, healthcare, and education system, making poverty even worse. Education is a major issue in Niger. Less than 30% of children complete primary school, and many are forced into child labor or early marriages. Without education, breaking out of poverty becomes nearly impossible. The healthcare system is also severely underdeveloped, leading to high child mortality rates and frequent disease outbreaks. With limited hospitals and doctors, millions suffer from preventable illnesses. Number 1. Liberia. Liberia is a small West African country with a population of around 5 million people. Decades of civil war, political instability, and corruption have severely damaged the economy. Over 50% of Liberians live below the poverty line, and many struggle to afford basic necessities like food, clean water, and health care. Agriculture is the main source of income, but low productivity, outdated farming methods, and climate change make it difficult for farmers to survive. The country is also rich in iron ore, rubber, and timber, but corruption and mismanagement have prevented these industries from benefiting the people. One of Liberia's biggest challenges is the lack of job opportunities. With one of the highest unemployment rates in Africa, most people rely on informal jobs and street vending to survive. Many families live in overcrowded slums where access to clean water, sanitation, and electricity is extremely limited. Liberia's healthcare system is severely underfunded and lacks basic medical supplies. Diseases like malaria, cholera, and tuberculosis are widespread, and the country still struggles with the long-term effects of the Ebola outbreak. Many hospitals lack trained doctors and essential medicines, forcing people to rely on traditional remedies. Over 60% of children drop out of school due to poverty, forcing them to work instead of getting an education. With a high illiteracy rate, breaking the cycle of poverty remains a huge challenge. Corruption remains a huge obstacle to Liberia's development. Government funds meant for public services often disappear, leaving citizens without the support they need.